Good morning, and welcome to today's episode of News with a View, a Fat Cat production. Today is May 23rd. This is episode 69. We're already up to 69, folks. I keep some of my other notes out here to refer back to. Just a let me just go through this again. Fat Cat production of News with a View. May 23rd, episode 69. I know it's a repeat. Your host, John A. Costa. And what I wanted to say, I wanted to make a correction. Yesterday, I kept calling, or at least I did it once that I know of. I didn't look back, but I know I said it. That I called the Skydance company taking over, that is in the process of taking over CBS Paramount. I called them Skydance. It's Sundance. I apologize for that. I've done that once before too. Just a slip of a tongue, but I wanted to correct that. I'm going to correct that later on. Today's episode is going to take into a very controversial, let me go into my other camera, a very controversial decision made by the Supreme Court that I didn't think President Trump was going to win. This has to do with the removal of two administrators that were put on by Biden. That President Trump had just removed. So, what has happened on Thursday ruling, Supreme Court Justice John Roberts agreed to temporarily halt the reinstatement of National Labor Relations Board member Gwen Wilcox and Merit System Protection Board member Kathy Harris, two Democrat appointees who were abruptly terminated by the Trump administration earlier this year. These positions can only be terminated under very, very tight reasons. They spelled out and notification of such and how it is supposed to be handled. I looked at, and of course, my 8 hours on the internet making me a legal scholar. But there is vetted law through the Supreme Court on this exact action taken by beloved Democratic President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who removed Chairperson Humphreys from the Federal Trade Commission because Humphreys kept fighting FDR on the New Deal. So FDR fired him. Humphreys went to the Supreme Court and was arguing that you can't do it. You can't do it because you're unhappy with that I am not doing what you would like me to do. I'm not there to do what you like me to do. I'm there to fulfill my obligation that the Senate had approved me of doing. Well, during the case, Humphreys died. And FDR thought, well, hey, sorry, well, this takes care of the deal, A dead man can't fight, blah, blah, blah. And it turns out that a dead man can't fight. His wife took on the challenge. But it was challenged in a little bit different manner. He was dead, so he cannot get his job back. He was replaced. That became all legal. What was challenged was he should not have been let go, and as such would have still been working the job. So what the case was known as Humphrey's executor in the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court found for Humphrey's executor. Should not have been fired. Couldn't replace him. Not for the reasons that were given to the court. So FDR just said, hey, listen, he's dead. He ain't getting his job back. We're going to pay the widow his 8 years or 7 years or 6 years worth of salary that he would have gotten, and we're done. And the court said, yeah, that's fine, but you couldn't have done it. And it's now not, it's neither here nor there now. But it became vetted law. So, what the Supreme Court now has done is said that they can't go back to their job. That while this argument continues. So it's not over yet, but basically it's over. But I'm still out on this. I'm still out on this. I never thought that this was a good process for Trump to do. So, you can't fire people without cause, basically, is what the case is. And these two persons, Gina Wilcox and Kathy Harris, said they were abruptly terminated. So it's an interesting event that is that the court is upholding. The only thing I could think of is that the courts are going to side with Donald Trump, and there's no point putting these people back in if they're just going to be let go 30 days from now, or 60 days, or 90 days from now. Interesting. But the Supreme Court did, however, suggest that it could block attempts to fire the federal chair person, Jerome Powell. What they're saying is, don't let this think that you can go ahead and do other things. This is the thing in front of us, and Powell, you haven't done anything. You threatened, but don't go there and think that this now gives you carte blanche. It is not the case. So the Supreme Court's giving the Trump administration just some heads up. We're not done here yet. We're just saying that we haven't heard your side on why you're getting rid of them. And there are reasons. You could say they're ineffective. And if they could prove just one instance of fraud inside their departments, if they could prove one instance where they didn't do something and they weren't effective, just one, they could be gone. They could be gone. So that is my headlines on today's issue. A USA article, an opinion in USA Today, where they put this right up in bold letters, but they do put in opinion. They do make it known right in the top byline that this is an opinion. And what they're saying basically is that the Democrats are upset that the news people in the liberal media are really going after their own over the call out of President Biden not being physically fit and mentally fit to serve. And you have people that are saying, well, why aren't you looking at President Trump the same way? And the reason being pointed out to them is that they have been doing that. They have been looking and searching, and but where you have the difference between President Trump and President Biden was that President Biden he probably had the less amount of press coverage of true meeting and pressing the flesh. President Trump has had more in his 100+ days than President Biden had in 4 years. And he has given more speeches that have been covered by the media in length, where he started from beginning to the end. And, very little gaffes, very little mistakes, and nothing that you go, oh, look, he stumbled on a word. Biden had such profound gaps and problems that Helen Keller could have seen them. I like using Helen Keller as a blind joke. The co-hosts of The View, not News with a View, The View, those ugly women, they took issue with Tapper. All know who he is, CNN. With his book and hawking on CNN The Original Sin. And they insist they want more focus on Trump's atrocities. When is Jake Tapper going to write about the cognitive decline of the person in charge right now? Joyce Bear posted. And she is truly a piece of shit that should be, again, The View where they have the right to do it. I say everyone should be going after the advertisers and going, if you're going to advertise on that show, we're going to go after you. You guys did it to My Pillow. You guys did it to a lot of things. So you know what? This is going to be our turn. And sometime in late July, as I write all this stuff down, I'm going to be setting up a do-it-yourself webpage where phone numbers and companies you can call and direct lines and home phone numbers to these people that support stuff that we don't. And I'm not saying harass them or do anything or follow them or make them, make them fearful. I'm not saying anything like that. That's wrong and should never happen. But calling them up and saying, hey, your company is supporting people that we feel are anti-American or anti-democracy, and as such, we're going to boycott your product, and we're going to actively boycott the product as much as the law allows. And when you do the right thing and stop advertising on them, then we'll say, hey, you did the right thing, you woke up, you saw your mistake, and now if you don't want to, keep going. If you turn around and go, hey, I don't care if you buy my product or not, or support the services or whatever, that's all about America. So the books and stuff coming out with Biden and his inability to lead during his presidency is, again, I don't know if the people that were doing it were acting unlawfully. I don't think so. I mean, with you people, they should be arrested for what? Now, the people that were saying he was perfectly fine and he was, don't worry, we know what you're hearing, but we need money donated to us to blah, blah, blah. Now, those people who endorsed the president knowing or should have known they were in positions where they said, I met with the president, I didn't see anything, we need money. Those people should be brought up on fraud charges. And for them to hide behind, well, we were being told the same thing you were being told by the White House. No, you weren't. You were witnessing it. Some people at CNN and the news things didn't witness it, and they believed what they were hearing. They never questioned it. They never looked at, hey, what about this? We have this of Biden saying this at the same thing, and you guys aren't concerned about that? You guys, we're screaming that this guy can't put 6 words together, and then during the debate, that's exactly what happened. He couldn't focus, and then, well, he's an old guy. Well, yeah, exactly, that's our point. And we've been saying this. And we've been saying, hey, maybe you want to pick someone else. And you didn't. And you went with this guy, so when we tore this guy to pieces, which is our job to do, then, you guys are against democracy. You guys hate America. Clown, clown, there's the clown, baby Trump, And all the time, the truth was in front of you. And as a voter, you could believe it or not. That's fine. Believe what you want to believe. But it was the people hawking Biden who knew that this guy was in trouble. And that the things that people were questioning about him were legitimate questions. And we were going to hide that. Those people, that's fraud. That's outright fraud. If you were buying a vehicle and the wheels were falling off and yet they pushed them onto the lugs and told you, nah, that's fine. Don't worry about that. You'd say that people should be arrested. Someone could have gotten hurt. What do you do at 2 a.m. when they wake Biden up and tell him, hey, the Russians just moved in on Europe, or China is moving in on Taiwan? And you're waking him up and he goes, oh, breakfast already? So you have to understand the concern that a lot of people had. And yeah, it was the other guy. And I get that. And I get that a lot of time people say things, but there was more than just saying things. There was actual physical, I can see it. I'm watching it. Are people seeing what I'm seeing? Am I hallucinating? No. So, the media lied and covered up. I can get over some of that. Your Schumers, your Pelosi's, your Schiffs, your Warrens. These were people who were every day bragging they're with the president every day. I talk to the president every day. Morning Joe, March 2024, the best ever. March 2024. And now he says, I was wrong. No, you weren't wrong. You lied. There's a difference of being wrong and lying. You lied. Now, my other, and I brought this up yesterday, that Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders had penned an ominous letter this week to Paramount Global, suggesting setting President Trump's lawsuit could be illegal under federal bribery statutes. Warren and Sanders should be charged with blackmail. Or at least malfeasance of office. Because under no legal precedent where a lawsuit has been filed and certified to go forward is that bribery. And the right of the company to settle a lawsuit is in fact a quid pro quo. Action. I'm going to do this if you do that. I will give you this if you give me that. That is exactly what a quid pro quo in a lawsuit is. If you withdraw your suit from me, I will make this settlement with you. That's what a settlement is. A settlement is a quid pro quo. This for that. It is not bribery. For these two individuals to come out there and make that against, I would get them for malfeasance. And actually, if I was Sundance, now you can't sue because they do have immunity. But I would go to the courts and say, you gag them. They can't make comments on this. Can't make comments on this suit. I would gag them. Because what they're doing is if we go to a jury, now that jury is going to say, hold on, isn't this bribery? When it's not. I would go on record if I was Paramount, if I was Sundance, if I was Skydance, I would go after them. Not Sunday, I did it again. If I was Skydance and Paramount, I would both go to them and jointly go, this has to stop. They're defaming the lawsuit and making impossible for either party to find people then that could act in an impartial manner. Where bribery was never, ever. Our side didn't bring it up. CBS didn't bring it up. Paramount didn't bring it up. Donald Trump did not bring it up. The FCC did not bring it up. This is such an overreach by these two individuals. To me, it borders on criminal. It borders on criminal. That a quid pro quo arrangement leading to a settlement could break the law in a letter sent on Monday. Well, a settlement is a quid pro quo. Now, if Sanders and Warren said, I have documents that said, hey, CBS, if you do this, I won't fight you on I'll push the sale through. And you might have some juice in there. But if I say to you, hey, not only am I going to take you to court with this, I'm also going to appeal to the FCC that your actions are so misaligned to your license agreements and to public trust that I want them to take action. Maybe they should stop the sale. I'm still suing you, but maybe they should stop the sale. That is not a quid pro quo. That is called a legal strategy. And that is not illegal. So, in that, later on today, right before I was printing everything out, I started hunting around. Because that's what I do. And I do look at both sides. And I do say, and like I said, if Warren and Sanders has some proof that Trump is saying, hey, I'll make your sale breeze through, you pay me this money, yeah, I can understand that. Being like, well, that wasn't part of the suit. But that hasn't been shown. That hasn't even been an accusation of that. But legal experts blast baseless Warren Sanders letter warning Paramount against Trump lawsuit settlement. Legal experts blasted an ominous letter that a trio of liberal senators sent to Paramount Global. And in that letter, they said Warren and Sanders must know this type of activism is hyperbolic outrage, is irresponsible. There is no support for the contention that payment for damages under a lawsuit is anything of value to an influence a federal official. There is no support for the idea that such a settlement would be corrupt. Perhaps Sanders and Warrens don't understand this, but their letter implies that CBS and Paramount are potentially engaged in bribery. Yeah, that's exactly what I said. They're accusing them of bribery. It's unfounded, and it's totally irresponsible. And this should go down and should be to the courts, immediately to the courts, to say that has to stop. Gag them. That has to stop. They can't do that. And if there is any venue for them to sue them on that, I'd sue them on it. Because what they're doing is libelous. And if you talk about libel, that would be the definition of it, of a libelous action. You impugned us. These two old people think that they are, anything coming out of their mouth is genius. Warren was just decimated 2 weeks ago in an interview where she had to admit she lied. Enough with these nut jobs. Democrats, clean your house. Because if you don't do it, we're going to do it. And you're not going to like the way we do it. 21% approval rating right now. Except in deep, deep blue areas are you guys relatively safe. And when I say relatively safe, where you should have won by 68%, you will win by 55%. And in certain of those areas, you might not win at all. So, it's going to be an interesting 2026. Because if this is how you're handling stuff right now, you guys are on the Hindenburg, you guys are on the Titanic, you guys are just in a world of hurt. And every time you have one of these leftists open their mouths, it just goes to show how little influence moderate Democrats have. Where you could then go, yeah, I know what they're saying, but those guys will stop it. It won't happen. Yeah? You got your AOCs, your Sanders, your Warrens running around there. You got Jasmine Crockett running around. You have congressional people pushing police officers. Yeah. Yeah. And they gave that mayor a break. And they gave him a break for a reason. They weren't going to give him any fuel to go with. But when they can get a congressperson, yeah. In midterms, yeah. They're going to make an example of her. They're going to make an example of some other people. They're going to make an example. And I'm, for one, am happy about it. Normally I'm not. I don't like governments making examples. But in some of the stuff that's coming out now, yeah, because you are so wrong that most common people wouldn't have even gone there. But it just shows how deranged and unattached you have become. So now we're going to step in. And we're going to give you a good smack. Maybe that jeers you out of it. Remember those old movies when the woman was hysterical or the guy's hysterical? And you give him a slap, and sometimes that breaks that. Patton got in trouble for it. So, legal experts tell Warren and Sanders to shut their pie hole. And I would like to see CBS, Paramount, Skydance, Trump file legal briefs to say stop them from doing that. What they're doing is irresponsible and hurting our case. And they're not party to the case. And shut them down. And embarrass them. So when talk hosts have them on their shows and they have to, what about, I can't talk about that. I'm not allowed to talk about that. Well, why? Because I can't. So, that's Elizabeth Warren telling me she could say whatever she wants to say. And we'll see how that works out for you, Elizabeth. So that's what's going on with that. And as we slide into what I was just talking about, black U.S. senators demand Trump administration drop charges against Representative LaMonica McIver. Well, Senator Cory Brooks, Warnock, Rochester, also Brooks, condemned the Department of Justice for trying to intimidate and silence the New Jersey Congresswoman. No one's stopping her from talking. No one said she can't talk. Who is stopping her from talking? She wasn't arrested because she was talking. She was arrested because she put her hands on someone. And I know a lot of people in certain minorities think that that's perfectly okay to do. But it's not. You get in trouble for that. And again, all black Democrats in the U.S. Senate have come together to condemn the criminal charges against McIver, demanding that the Trump administration dismiss the cases. Why would we do that? Because she's black? Why didn't they say to dismiss the case against Menendez out of New Jersey for corruption? We stand with Representative McIver in the face of efforts to intimidate her and to silence those who seek to hold the administration accountable. No one was being silenced. No one was being silenced. She put her hands on someone. She shoved them, and she tried to restrain a federal officer. You don't get to do that. You just don't get to do that. Being a congressman does not give you that right. So, she must face the consequences of her actions. This will just be more and more fodder for 2026. Oh yes, and it will be a black-white. This will be a black-white issue. Take my word for it. Take my word for it. The blacks are already turning this into a race issue. And the media is helping them with it. But that's okay. Because it will just add to your crushing defeat. And I think you'll see so many people carrying flags at rallies and anti-Democrat banners at rallies that Democrats should be politically concerned. I say politically concerned, not personally concerned, politically concerned. That will be very hard to undo. I suggest everyone who sees a news reporter or anything, just have with you, I support President Trump, and walk right behind them. I support President Trump. Or I support the Republican Party. And this is what the Republican Party should be doing on a national and local basis. Printing these things up, fold them up in your pocketbook, even if they're folded and crumpled, and stretch them out. Right behind the news reporters. Don't interfere with them. Stand behind them. Make sure that it can get in the picture. Make sure that, you hold it so that it's cropped over their head. To the left, to the right. The cameramen, and most of these ones are one-man shows. They take a wide shot, they can't fix it. That's going in. They might be able to edit it later and try to do it, but after a while, they just won't be able to do it. And that will get in there. You can get 20 feet away from these people, and do not crowd around these people, because it makes them feel unsafe. They're looking at a camera, and they can't focus in around them to look at their surroundings, and that's not fair. Don't make people feel that they're not safe. That's not fair to do, and that's not right to do. But you could stand off and go, Trump, 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 Trump. You could go MAGA, MAGA, MAGA. Democrats, you can go, whoever, Democrat. You can do that. That's acceptable. That is acceptable. You can do signs, down with Trump. You do it all the time. You see it all the time. And they make sure they do wide shots for that. That's Bernie Sanders saying, he's going to sue me for saying what I said. Good luck, Bernie. I'm considered a news organization. Just so you know. And how can I do that? The same way a state can recognize a gal who says she's a guy, or a guy who says that she's a gal. If I think it, I can be it. And a little tidbit to what's going on with the charges. AOC warns GOP over the Trump bill, and she also made a veiled threat that if they arrest McIver, there'll be trouble. Well, bring it on. But AOC warns GOP, the Trump bill, when this country wakes up, there'll be consequences. Well, honey, this country did wake up in 2024. And we got woke. And we tossed Biden and Harris and a lot of others out and took over control. So, I'm not worried about us waking up. I'm worried more that we stay up. We take 2026 harder than we took 2024. And then we just build that up onto 2028. And I want to go to your neighborhood, AOC, and start protesting in that neighborhood the crime and everything else. And we'll bring people in from the outside into Minnesota, Minneapolis, Arizona. You think that we're not prepared? You think that we're not thinking? When you guys think you're 3 steps in front of us, you're 10 steps behind us. We're going to be the ones bussing people in. We're going to be the ones registering people living in hotels and then taking them to vote. Yeah. Yep. And as soon as they vote, we take them back. Just like you did. We learned well. And we're going to force you to make a voting law, an ID. Because we're going to use the same tactics you legally used to get people in office. And what you did wasn't illegal. You brought people in, you registered them, you put them in hotels, you put them on the streets, you gave them addresses, and registered them one day, and the next day had them vote, put them back on buses, and put them to wherever they came from, and gave them a couple of $100. You fed them. We know what you did. And you know what we're going to do? The same thing. But we don't have to do that in a lot of places. But we will in Minnesota. we will in Arizona. And we will in Philadelphia. And we will in New York. In the Bronx. In Long Island City. And those places are going to have rapid growth of people showing up to vote. Days before the election. Yeah. And we want you to stop those people from voting AOC and Walz. We want you to stop those people from voting. And then scream about setting up voter ID laws. Ain't America wonderful? All right, with that, I'm going to finish this up. I'm going to say goodnight. I'm going to get this up as soon as I can today, probably before 3 o'clock. We donated a bunch of cans yesterday to our local food bank that's being held at Socrates Station in Socrates, South Carolina. June 1st, they're holding a benefit, $10 spaghetti and meatball. There'll be things for children to do, face painting, a good time for all, and all the proceeds are being donated to charity. So that's Socrates Station, Socrates, South Carolina, June 1st. I keep doing that. I'm pulling a Biden. So that's January 1st. And I think that starts from like 11 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon. I will put the details up on this program and the next program and every program up until that date a few times in my editing, and push that. All right. With that, I'm going to say good night, say a prayer. Chris, again, congratulations on your award from high school. See you in June for your graduation. Rowan, I miss you. You make me laugh all the time. Danielle and Paul, Cannoli the parrot, and my granddaughter who made honors in her first grade. All right. Later. And as always, I'll finish this up, if I could hit the button correctly, by fading to black.